Most people believe that being good is enough, that kindness, morality, and patience will eventually earn them respect, love, and maybe even power. But Niccolò Machiavelli, writing from the heart of Renaissance Italy, surrounded by betrayal, war, and political backstabbing, saw a much darker truth. Good people often get crushed. His book, The Prince, published 5 years after his death in 1532, was not a guide to being noble. It was a guide to surviving reality. Brutal, unapologetic, and centuries ahead of its time, The Prince was written not just for kings and rulers, but for anyone navigating systems built on illusion. You might not wear a crown, but if you've ever been overlooked at work, manipulated by someone you trusted, or silenced for telling the truth, this book is about you. And if you think morality alone is your shield, think again. Machiavelli argued that power has its own rules, and those who don't understand them will always be ruled by those who do. This isn't a manual for cruelty. It's a mirror to the world most people pretend not to see. So if you're ready to stop being a pawn in someone else's game, these 10 lessons from Machiavelli may just change the way you move forever. Machiavelli begins with a warning most people ignore until it's too late. Never place your fate in the hands of those who don't bleed for your cause. In The Prince, he calls out mercenaries, hired soldiers who fight not out of loyalty, but for coin. To Machiavelli, they are dangerous, not because they're weak, but because they are indifferent. When the battle turns, they flee. When the mission requires sacrifice, they hesitate. When a better offer comes, they switch sides. And while most of us aren't hiring armies, the principle runs deeper in business relationships and even friendships. Mercenaries are everywhere. They're the employees who work only for the paycheck, the friends who show up when it's convenient, the partners who vanish when you're no longer useful. People who stand beside you only when the weather is good will not be there in the storm. Machiavelli watched entire Italian city-states fall because they trusted those who had nothing to lose if they failed. His lesson is clear: build with those who are bound to the outcome, who win if you win and bleed if you fall. Real loyalty doesn't come from contracts. It comes from shared stakes. And in a world of transactional loyalty, that kind of allegiance is your rarest and most powerful weapon. Machiavelli didn't romanticize greatness, he dissected it. He believed that behind every empire, every legacy, every name carved into stone, there were patterns worth studying. In The Prince, he urges us imitate the great, not blindly, not slavishly, but intentionally. He believed history was the world's most honest teacher, and those who refuse to learn from it are not just naive, they are vulnerable. Whether it's Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, or modern icons like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, their decisions, mistakes, and mindset offer blueprints that transcend time. But here's the catch. Machiavelli also warned there will come a moment when no one's map will fit your terrain. In that moment, you must act on your own judgment. Imitation can carry you far, but originality, strategic, situational, sometimes terrifying, is what will define you. There's a reason shadows are cast by giants. They walked through light first. But your path is yours to walk. Copy their courage, borrow their tactics, learn from their scars, but don't lose yourself trying to wear someone else's crown. The world doesn't reward perfect mimicry. It rewards decisive thinking in moments when others freeze. So, learn from the legends, yes, but know when to stop copying and start commanding. One of Machiavelli's most urgent warnings is deceptively simple. Never strengthen those who might one day dethrone you. In The Prince, he uses the example of the King of France, who, believing he was being clever, allied with the Pope to gain influence in Italy. But instead of controlling the region, he handed power to the Church, allowing the Pope to grow stronger than either of them imagined. Worse still, the king allowed Spain into the arena, thinking their help would serve him. In reality, he invited a second wolf into the pen and was soon surrounded. This mistake is repeated everywhere today. A business leader hires a brilliant outsider with unclear loyalty only to be replaced by them. A friend gives too much trust to someone who subtly undermines them. A politician props up a lesser enemy to fight a bigger one, only to watch that lesser threat evolve into their biggest downfall. Machiavelli's principle is cold, but timeless. Don't feed what you may one day have to kill. Power is not just about who you lift, it's about who you keep small. Even well-intentioned generosity can be a strategic error if it builds someone else's empire on your land. So when you think about helping someone rise, ask yourself what happens if they stop needing you. When you take control of a company, a relationship, a community, the first instinct is often to rebuild everything in your image. But Machiavelli urges restraint. In The Prince, he warns when you conquer new territory, change as little as possible. Keep the laws, keep the customs, keep the taxes. Let the people feel as though their world remains intact, even if the power structure quietly shifts. Why? Because people don't fear rulers as much as they fear instability. It's not domination they resist, it's disruption. Machiavelli understood that humans are creatures of rhythm. We crave the familiar even under new rule. A wise leader knows that immediate sweeping change creates panic, and panic breeds resistance. Instead, give the illusion of continuity. Let them believe they've lost nothing while you quietly hold everything. You can build your own systems behind the curtain, but out front, keep their routines sacred. Even in modern contexts like corporate takeovers or community leadership, those who come in with a heavy hand often fail. Not because they're wrong, but because they move too fast. The paradox is this: if you want real lasting change, don't show your hand all at once. Win their comfort before you reshape their world. Rule the people, but let them feel like they're still home. Power means nothing without the moment to use it. And opportunity means nothing if you're too weak to seize it. Machiavelli draws a chilling conclusion: both are worthless on their own. He writes that a leader must possess virtue, the inner force, skill, and willpower to act, and also recognize fortuna, the ever-changing winds of chance. You may be intelligent, driven, and ruthless, but if you cannot recognize the open door when it appears, all your strength becomes idle. On the flip side, opportunities may present themselves an enemy's mistake, a sudden vacancy, a social shift. But if you haven't prepared your influence, your reputation, your strategy, you'll watch it pass like a train you were too late to board. Machiavelli despised those who relied solely on luck. He saw how fragile fortune was, how quickly it changed, and how cruel it could be to those who leaned on it too heavily. The people who last, he argued, are those who build power that doesn't depend on chaos. They prepare quietly. They position themselves deliberately. So when the opportunity appears unexpectedly, violently, or just once in a lifetime, they are already armed. You don't rise because luck loves you. You rise because when the gods blink, you were already climbing. We all want to believe the world rewards virtue, that honesty, compassion, and idealism lead to victory. But Machiavelli knew better. In The Prince, he writes, "He who gives up what is done for what ought to be done learns rather how to destroy himself than to preserve himself." In simpler terms, those who try to live according to how the world should work often get crushed by the way it does. He wasn't saying kindness is useless. He was saying kindness without leverage is suicidal. If you try to fix a corrupt system by simply being pure, you'll be eaten alive by those who understand the rules better than you. History is filled with martyrs who told the truth and got buried for it. Machiavelli believed if change must come, it cannot come gently. His words are brutal but unforgettable. Armed prophets conquer, unarmed prophets perish. The truth is, if you want to create something good, you need to survive long enough to build it, and that often requires doing things that aren't so good. Strategic compromise, tactical deception, even force. Idealism may inspire you, but if you don't learn to play the game of reality, you'll end up being a cautionary tale told by those who won. Machiavelli saw something few leaders dared to admit. The elite may have influence, but the people have numbers, and when pushed too far, numbers become fire. In The Prince, he explains the delicate tension between nobility and the common population. The nobility, he said, will always seek to control the ruler for their own ends. Their loyalty is transactional, temporary, and deeply self-interested. The people, on the other hand, often want just one thing: not to be oppressed. And in that simplicity lies strength. A ruler who sides with the people may not be adored by the elites, but he gains something far more powerful: protection from below. Machiavelli warns that when the people hate you, the elites don't even have to conspire against you. They simply wait for the uprising. But when the people trust you, even if you are strict, they will defend your rule because they see it as theirs. The same applies in modern leadership. CEOs who lead for shareholders but ignore employees often face internal collapse. Politicians who cater to donors but ignore communities lose the soul of their support. Influence may start with the few, but it lives or dies with the many. If you want to stay in power, serve the ones who can remove you in a single breath. In politics, business, and even personal life, power doesn't just come from what you do, it comes from what people think you are. Machiavelli understood this with unnerving clarity. In The Prince, he insists that a ruler must appear to be virtuous, merciful, honest, religious, fair, even when his actions are the complete opposite. Why? Because the masses judge by appearance, not intent. The world rarely asks what you had to do behind the curtain, they only remember how gracefully the show was performed. Machiavelli's point isn't to promote deception for deception's sake, it's to highlight a brutal truth. If you're fully transparent in a corrupt world, you won't survive long enough to make a difference. He warns that rulers who are openly inconsistent, soft, or too idealistic invite contempt. And once contempt sets in, loyalty disappears. This isn't about being fake. It's about mastering duality. Be the lion and the fox. Look like a shepherd, think like a wolf. In today's world, this lesson is more relevant than ever. People who signal virtue often rise faster, but those who possess quiet, strategic depth while letting the surface stay calm tend to stay in power longer, pretend to be what they love, but quietly become what they fear. Ask anyone what kind of leader they'd rather be loved or feared, and most will answer without hesitation, loved, of course. But Machiavelli wasn't writing for popularity contests. He was writing for survival. In The Prince, he argues that while it's ideal to be both loved and feared, if you must choose, always choose fear. Love is conditional. It depends on mood perception and what you've done for them lately. It can evaporate the moment you say no. But fear, when rooted in respect, not cruelty, holds. It creates boundaries. It protects against betrayal. A leader who is feared carefully, intentionally, is less likely to be challenged, undermined, or taken for granted. Machiavelli wasn't advocating sadism. He was advocating clarity. He warned that too much leniency invites chaos, that trying to be loved by all often means serving none, and eventually being destroyed by those who see your kindness as weakness. In today's world, this lesson still cuts deep. Parents, managers, politicians, those who try too hard to be liked, often lose control of the very systems they're meant to lead. True power is calm, decisive, and a little bit dangerous. When people know you can strike but choose not to, they respect you more than if you never had teeth at all. There's a chilling brilliance to Machiavelli's final lesson. If you must do harm, do it quickly and do it all at once. In The Prince, he warns that cruelty when necessary should be swift, decisive, and final. Why? Because drawn-out punishment breeds resentment. Repeated shocks don't just hurt, they humiliate, and humiliation is what drives rebellion. Machiavelli believed that even brutal actions, if done in a single concentrated blow, could allow space for stability to follow. People fear power, yes, but they can live with fear. What they can't live with is unpredictable suffering. History backs him up. The rulers who prolong cruelty, executing one enemy at a time, dragging out purges, issuing punishments in waves, don't create order. They create paranoia, and eventually they fall to the very unrest they tried to contain. But those who confront chaos with a single sharp strike often restore peace faster. This applies far beyond politics. In leadership, ending toxic teams or cutting bad deals quickly and cleanly hurts less in the long run than letting decay fester. In relationships, delayed honesty is more painful than hard truths told early. If you must wound once, then stop, because people remember the pain, but they also remember when it ended. Most people are taught to be good, to be kind, to play fair, but life doesn't always reward those who do. That's the uncomfortable truth Niccolò Machiavelli exposed nearly 500 years ago, and it still holds up today. His message wasn't about cruelty, it was about clarity. If you want to survive, succeed, and protect what matters, you need more than good intentions. You need strategy. Machiavelli teaches us to think deeper than surface-level virtue. He reminds us that appearances matter, that people judge what they see, not what's true. That loyalty without shared purpose is fragile. That trying to change broken systems with ideals alone can destroy you. And that sometimes being respected means being feared just enough to hold the line. These lessons don't belong only to politicians or kings. They're for anyone who's ever been betrayed, overlooked, manipulated, or dismissed. They're for people building businesses, raising families, leading teams, navigating chaos. Life is not a fair game, but it is a game you can learn to play wisely. So don't mistake kindness for weakness, but don't mistake strategy for cruelty either. You can be ethical and still be sharp. You can be compassionate and still be dangerous to those who try to harm you. That balance is where true power lives. If this message hit home, if it made you rethink how you approach power, influence, or survival, consider sharing it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more deep, unfiltered truths like this, hit subscribe, drop a like, and share this video. Because in a world full of noise, real knowledge still matters.